Talent used to be something organizations managed. Today, it is something they have to design. Now, in a world where AI is reshaping decisions, careers are becoming fluid, and teams are no longer bound by geography, the very idea of work and the people who power it is being redefined in real time. So, now the real question is, how do you build a talent ecosystem that can survive and thrive in an AI first, borderless world? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today with Ms. Smriti Mathur, the Vice President, People India and Global Talent Advisory at Pegasystems. Well, she brings in 2 decades at the intersection of people, strategy, and transformation across both India and the States. And we're very happy to have you, Ms. Smriti, on our new episode of BW People HR Voices Season 4. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Savi. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, before we get into the more serious questions, I have an opening question for you. You've spent over 2 decades in India and the US. Now, what's one belief that you've unlearned and now you've replaced it about work or about people?
Okay. I think one of the things that I have definitely reflected on probably, and I'm still unlearning in the global role that I have, is gone are the days where physical proximity is the way to manage productivity or work hours, right? And, we used to count hours, manage presence, manage office time, right? I think that model was in a different era. We all work in a global environment where we have geographically dispersed teams. And I think for us to kind of scale and for us to make sure that we are able to deliver on our rapidly changing business outcomes, productivity is now more about building that clarity in that confusion, right? Instead of constantly evolving, where people truly matter, not just what are they working for, but why are they working for something, right? What's the purpose? What's the bigger picture? And how do we build in trust through our communication, through fairness, through consistency in what we do and how we do, and how do we collaborate, how do we communicate on a daily basis, and how impact gets delivered rather than, being there around all the time. So I think those are some of the things that have been very, very constantly evolving.
Right. While you spoke about the borderless world and working across geographies, building a culture that holds together is also very important. Now, with that and with different geographies, it is more possible that the culture breaks down at different levels. How do you hold that together? What's the glue? What's your ideology? Could you share that with us?
I think that's a very, very good question, Savi, because culture is no longer what you see on poster walls or what you see on, banners and screens, right? It is basically what you experience on a day-to-day basis. And I think this is where leaders play a very pivotal role and managers play a very pivotal role, because they're meeting their teams online or in person or outside on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis or whatever that frequency is. And I feel that how you communicate every day, right? How are you actually recognizing things, in terms of, what kind of behaviors are you recognizing? Are you recognizing team members who are pulling up last minute heroics and trying to get the savior goalpost accomplished? Or are you actually rewarding people who are asking the right questions, making you think ahead, which may slow you down for some time, but they're saying, hey, I don't think this is going to work, and then trying to kind of bring in that recognition of that culture in terms of building a psychologically safe environment is becoming the glue, to your point. So I think how we communicate, how we recognize and reward, and how do we walk the talk is more important right now in terms of building a strong culture that keeps the team together, because then they see that there is fairness, there is consistency in what's happening around them, and they can feel it, most importantly.
Well, while we mentioned that you've worked in the States and also in India, what is one prominent differentiation that you see in Indian talent versus talent from abroad or international talent? what is something that the Indian talent is bringing to the table?
I think Indian talent has been fairly recognized globally in terms of its depth and its scale, right? But I think where I was able to get a lot of exposure was application oriented learning, right? Where people are more into problem solving rather than just getting the job done per se. So I think I've had the advantage of working across teams where it was really a good way for to kind of balance out, where you have the technological depth, where you have the scale and the diversity, but you also have the ability to understand and peel the onion and get the problem on the table, discuss it, and make sure that we are able to drive through different phases rather than something which is laid out. So most of the times it's like, can you clarify? But we have to start learning how do we deal with ambiguity rather than clarifying it all the time. So I keep saying, that everything will not be clear and we will build it as we go. So I think that was a unique thing that I experienced working across different cultures. And I think in a global AI first environment, we're learning from each other.
Right. Very, very well put. As you said, you're learning every day and you move with the changes. AI and automation in itself, it's changing every day. With that, an HR's role is not just to manage talent, it's also designing an ecosystem from start to end. The skills are changing, the career paths are changing, the roles are changing. What is your say on that, and how has AI evolved all these prominent things that the HR has to look after? The skills, the careers, the role paths, the internal mobility. What is your take on that?
I think AI has been a very strong influence in how we are hiring, how are we looking at data patterns, how are we looking at different ways of connecting the dots, right? So it's helping us kind of look at insights, build on those insights. But I think very, very importantly is our ability to adapt to this changing way of doing things, right? While AI is helping us understand these different insights, what's also important is how's the work changing? How's the role changing? Because work is getting more and more fluid. Gone are the days, when I will be just on one role, like a fixed title, doing the same thing year on year. There is a need for us to kind of look at a skill and a capability approach there is a need not to have just linear careers where I will start as an analyst and retire at a certain level in the organization, but start looking at it from, how can I use my skills to build different kind of experiences? It could be cross-function, it could be cross-discipline. I can be in HR, but I can also be in business, and vice versa. Somebody from business, and we've had great examples where people in business have done great in HR and vice versa. So I think what we are seeing here right now is moving away from the traditional approach of having a career ladder to having, career journeys, which may not start and end with the same job function, or which may not. So I think the role of the HR becomes even more strategic in terms of designing those career journeys, understanding those skill gaps, and more importantly, enabling our workforce and bringing about things like marketplaces where they could explore more opportunities which align to their skill sets and their capabilities. So I think it is more about not just looking at things in one particular way, but also experimenting and understanding how can the skill currency be used more effectively to solve more problems rather than one problem.
Right. Ms. Mathur, adding to that, with AI-led PP practices, there's a continuous risk of bias, of surveillance, of transparency. Now, how do you manage that risk? And also, where do you how do you balance the AI versus human intuition, human judgment part? And what are you doing at Pegasystems that's, maintaining that kind of integrity with using AI, but also the judgment and the human touch part?
That's a really good question, Savi, because all of us are, grappling with, how do you balance both the things, right? And at Pega, we have AI first and growth mindset at the forefront of our values in terms of how we are approaching things. And very interestingly, I think while we are asking everybody in the organization, not just our product engineers or our software engineers or our support teams or our sales or our consulting teams in go to market, but we're also asking everybody, including enabling function, to leverage AI first mindset, because it helps us in terms of scaling, it helps us in moving faster, and it increases our ability to experiment and move in different directions, right? But at the same time, I think it's very, very critical to have that thin balance about, what we are asking AI to do and where is the human context and how we balance it out. So I think it's very, very important that where the consequences are more human, there is more human judgment, there is more understanding, and there is more empathy in terms of what we do and how we do. So let me take an example here, right? This actually makes the job of a manager even more important and critical in terms of understanding, where is the AI helping us in terms of building that scale and that consistency, but at the same time, what has been the context, what has been the ownership, right? So AI can help you in terms of what are you trying to do, but it can't own. And that's where we believe that ownership is definitely with the human. Right. In the chain, right? It is with the individuals who are driving that. So it's very, very important that we set those guardrails. And it's also important that we bring in the human element at the center of it, or our client experience at the center of it, or our employee experience at the center of it, right? So for me, I think it is very, very important that we design systems and programs and talent. We design talent strategies which align with the AI way of doing things, but at the same time, we are able to bring in the human context, the human judgment, the ethical and the non-biased way of doing things, so that we can be more effective in what we do and how we do.
Thank you for that. I'll shift the conversation a little bit back to our previous question, which was about culture. Now, May is the month of mental health awareness. Working across geographies with AI, there have been several reports that have come out about the increase of burnout rate, especially when people are working across geographies, and also with the rise of AI. Especially if we see in tech roles and IT roles, people are like the mid-managerial level, the burnout rate has gone up. What do you think about it? How are you managing that? And what are some of the psychological initiatives that you have taken that are in place at Pegasystems that have been helping people to cope up with this burnout rate?
And Savi, I think it's very important for us to talk about this. I think if I were to meet anyone, and the typical thing is, oh, it's been a busy day, right? So I think it's very important that are people going through a pressure of learning and unlearning, or are they truly going through a burnout? I think it's very important for us to evaluate that. Now, if you are in a busy day and you're just doing back-to-back working long hours, but it is not creating any value or impact or end goal, it is truly going to lead into a burnout. And let's take a small example, right? If I am in back-to-back meetings, right, and I'm using my weekend only to recover, then I'm heading towards burnout, and I hear that a lot. But if we are in a situation where under high pressure, because all of us are learning, unlearning, and applying that knowledge at the same time, I think that little amount of pressure is a-okay, right? Because I could be in meetings where the stakes are high, there are tight agenda items. You have to deliver on a certain timeline. I hope this example is fairly familiar to all of us, right? But if people are just taking notes and action items and moving out, and nobody's calling out anything, that's a good sign. right? So, but if people are just quiet, taking down notes, just the meeting starts with action item, closes with action items, those are signs that, people are just keeping quiet, and they're
Right.
not even talking about, what's not working well. But if the manager or the leader is leveraging this to be a psychologically safe meeting, where you start by asking, hey, how's it going, or is anything surprising here that we are discussing, you opening up the environment where people are asking questions, building a safe environment to challenge each other, and then taking people along. And I think that is so critical. And of course, being an organization which is very strongly supported by top benefits, we have different other avenues. We have communities in the form of ERG, where, employees can go meet like-minded people, learn from each other, talk to each other, share their experiences. We have formal EAP lines. We have talent advisory partners to support you. But I think what really needs to change is the shift in culture of how we are engaging in a day-to-day basis. How is the last mile connect, the manager and the team communicating on a day-to-day basis? To make sure that they're able to understand those early warning signs in day-to-day meetings, so that you don't get escalated to the next level, or your help should be right around.
Right.
And how do you build those cultures, in terms of engaging and building that growth mindset?
That's very important. We're also seeing that there has been a very prominent shift from job-based roles to skill-based architectures. Do you think the job descriptions, the JDs, have to become obsolete? And if yes, what has replaced it in a scalable way, and what could replace it?
That's a very interesting question. So I don't think jobs descriptions have become outdated, but they have evolved for sure. So no longer are we looking at a static job description, because we're looking at people in terms of not just the experiences they bring in, but how quickly can they learn? What's their learning velocity, right? Or how quickly can they adapt to a new situation? Again, let me give you something that you could probably relate with. If you're hiring somebody in your team, you're not hiring them just for a role. You're hiring them for fungible skills that tomorrow, if that role kind of gets evolved or changed into something else, you can leverage that skill set to do something else, right? So I think it's the change in the way we are looking at leveraging the capabilities of individuals, and this is becoming more like a skill inventory and career journey kind of a conversation, more than actually having one static job description and fulfilling a role. So I think our recruiting team is no longer just filling roles. We are hiring talent for the future. And I think that shift is so critical as we move ahead.
What are some challenges that come along with a multi-generational force, especially if you're working in a borderless environment? I'm assuming it would be even more difficult. What are some of the expectations of a multi-generational workforce? How are you handling that? What are some challenges that you see? Would you like to share with us?
I think, there's been a lot of give and take, in all honesty, because, being an organization which has multi-generational workforce, we have Gen Zs, who are very highly intentional. They're like, not just what needs to be worked, but why are we doing this and how does it connect the bigger picture and the dots? And then we have Gen Zs, we have Gen Ys, we have baby boomers. I think it's a good combination where we have technology legacy with the future of the workforce. And it comes with both challenges and opportunities, honestly, right? Challenges would be in terms of discovering what can be learned and unlearned at every stage. Because you may be a Gen Z, or you may be a Gen X, or you may be a Gen Y. I think all of us come with a baggage of experience, which may not work anymore. So how do I unlearn it, right? All of us may not be as savvy as working in an agentic engineering environment. So how do we build those skills? So I think the Gen Z is brought up in a techno focused engineering kind of an environment, so they're really quick at it. So I think how do we embrace mentoring and reverse mentoring is very, very critical. How do we build on talent strategies where people get an opportunity to stretch across roles so that they can actually pick up hands-on skills is very critical. How can they job shadow somebody so that they can live a life in that person's space is critical, because when you're not doing that, you're just being not exposed enough to experiment, to discuss, and also to embrace the diversity around you. I think what really brings in is, how do I embrace this powerhouse of multi-generational workforce? And that can be done if we are creating different ways of engagement, different ways of communication, and learning and unlearning together. Reverse mentoring, for example, has been a huge thing for me, because I wanted to learn more about technology faster, because I knew my business was moving faster than me, and I'm on a treadmill. So if I don't learn, I get fallen down. So I think it's important that how do you leverage from each other's strength as you go forward.
Very interesting that you mentioned this point. My next question was around that. As you mentioned that for leaders also, it's very important to learn, unlearn, and be in pace with the change. Why machines can optimize decisions? What is the unique value that leaders are bringing in today, apart from the human touch and the human judgment part? What is it that leaders are bringing in today? Do you think leaders evolve when authority is no longer tied to information symmetry? What is your take on that?
Again, it's been a great way for us to also learn that leadership is also about not just control and authority. It is also about the judgment and the ability to create the right psychological safe spaces for people to grow and for people to learn. When I say that, what I mean actually is that the traditional leadership competencies of leading with authority and control are no longer going to be as leveraged as the ability to ask right questions. So it's not about me being the expert in the room and having all the answers. It's about how do you create a culture where you can engage with people and help them come up with the right answers, because you may not have all the right answers. So suddenly it's not about titles, it's not about entitlement, and it is not about authority. It is more about how can you build in a safe culture where others can fail fast, you give them space to ask the right questions, and most importantly, how do you stitch it all together and bring that trust, bring that clarity so that people can work for a particular outcome. And I think that's even more critical in the AI world than anywhere, because AI can help me with insights, AI can help me with consistency, but AI cannot help me with that judgment for me to say, hey, it's okay to experiment. Right. It's okay to fail fast. Or ask the right questions as to why did I even come up with that approach in that first place, right? So I think the leaders play a very, very critical role in terms of bringing that shift from know it all to learn it all.
I'll use this phrase somewhere for sure. Thank you. Well, before we move on to the next segment, I wanted to ask you something on a very separate note. With AI Summit happening in India this year, do you believe that India is positioned to lead in the AI-driven economy, or are we still operating with the legacy mindsets? What is your take on that?
I think we're inching in the right direction, honestly, Savi, because what keeps us well positioned is our strong technology pipeline of talent and the scale of talent. I mean, the kind of engineers that graduate out of India, our universities, are a great testimony of the technology depth and the scale that India can provide in a global platform, right? Or at a global scale. So I have no doubt in my mind about the opportunity I have. But where we need to reinvent ourselves, honestly, is move out of fixed way of doing things, fixed hierarchies. Somebody coming in telling me, okay, do these three things and you'll be done. I think dealing with that ambiguity, the ability to solve a problem, the ability to kind of be iterative. We're always taught that, okay, you need to be smart, you need to work hard, get good grades, crack each test that you're on. Well, I think that mold is breaking because we don't even know what's the test ahead, right? And we don't even know what is it that we need to score. So I think having that ability to break that rigidity and that hierarchy, and being able to apply your knowledge rather than to kind of seek for somebody else to come and tell you that if you do these three things, then things will move, would really open great opportunity at a global scale in an AI world for us.
Well, very nice concluding thoughts. And on that note, we'll now move on to the next segment, which is the rapid fire round. And we only need one word answers from you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, bring it on.
One HR trend that's overrated.
Let me think. I think we spend too much time on a one-sided metric called employee engagement survey score, which is more about a feeling at a given point of time. I think we need to start focusing on other dynamic metrics along with this, like outcomes and problem solving.
Okay. One trend that's underestimated.
In one word, I think internal mobility. We all have this thing of going outside and finding talent. For me, I think internal mobility has been a great way to upskill and to build and grow.
All right. AI in HR, is it opportunity or disruption?
Oh, definitely an opportunity. Opportunity if we think short term, it's a distraction if you think it's short term, right? If you're just thinking of it in terms of data. But I think it just pivots you for HR to do more strategic things in terms of building great experiences and architectures.
Right. Performance reviews, keep or kill?
I think if you want to keep performance as a conversation, as a continuous dialogue, you should keep it. Otherwise, I think it doesn't make sense for you to keep it as a static input.
Okay. One word to describe Gen Z at work.
Intentional. They have the intent. They want to know how is my effort going to create a bigger outcome. I think they're very intentional.
Okay. One leadership trait that's becoming irrelevant.
One leadership trait that is know it all.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's where the learn and unlearn comes in.
Yeah, having all the answers. I think that's going out.
All right. One thing every CHRO must learn today.
I personally believe that the ability to understand, work with AI, look at the data and insights, but also the human context of it. And I think that scores us as a role, as a profession, because I think it's needed even more than before. The human context in the world of AI.
Okay. Lastly, your biggest people leadership lesson in one line.
My biggest lesson would be that if people don't grow with you, they will leave you.
Lovely. With that, we'll now conclude this episode. Thank you so much, Ms. Mathur, for joining us today for this episode. I'm sure the viewers would love watching this interaction and hope to stay connected with you for more such episodes.
Thank you, Savi. It was a very refreshing one, and I really enjoyed all the sections. Thank you so much.